All right, so yesterday we finished explaining how 1 hour in this world doing tshuva and masim tovim is bigger, is better, is higher, is greater than all the life in Gan Eden. And I would hope that was not surprising. I mean, the Jewish life is sacred. Other people are killing themselves to go upstairs to be with some women or whatever. But this is not what happens. I heard this once from my rabbi in Caracas, that probably Jews are up there trying to kill themselves to come back. Because this is where things happen. Up there, yes, you're enjoying the Ziva Shechina, you're enjoying the light, the radiance, the reflection of the divinity, but you can't achieve anything. Everything is down here. So it's not surprising, right, to hear that. But hopefully today will be surprising if we're able to finish this part. We'll see. Because now we want to understand, how can you say that 1 hour of Torah, mitzvot, or tshuva in this world is greater than the whole time we'll spend in the time of the resurrection of the dead, which is much more a crazier statement. I mean, understand that the whole purpose of the world is to build a house for Hashem in this world, which we will finish once Mashiach comes. And then we said 40 years later, we be Techiyat Ametim, and we'll get to another level. We'll not only will be able to interact with Mimale Kol Almin and Sovev Kol Almin, but even with the essence of Hashem. And we said that at that point, they will no longer be mitzvot, not because we won't have to do the acts, but because we're going to be literally, consciously one with Hashem. And when you're one with Hashem, there can be somebody who's giving you a commandment. There can be a commandment that requires two entities, and there won't be. So you're saying this is better than that? That sounds far-fetched, hard to believe, even harder to explain. But we're going to try. Perhaps we'll finish today, or perhaps we'll finish next week. I mean, this part of the explanation. Okay. So in Olam HaTechiyah, we're going to be connected to our Yechidah shebenefesh, to our essence of our soul. We know the soul has 5 levels: nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, and Yechidah, which align themselves with the 5 davenings of Yom Kippur. So the 5th one is aligned to Ne'ilah, which is a moment of oneness with Hashem. Even though we're facing a fast tonight, tomorrow, the end of the fast of Tisha B'Av doesn't have the feeling of the end of Yom Kippur. You're just hungry. You're just hungry waiting to eat. Yom Kippur, you might be hungry a lot of the day, but by Ne'ilah, it's not so hard to focus on the prayer itself. Because you're connected to your Yechidah shebenefesh. And then we're saying in Olam HaTechiyah, we're going to be constantly, it's going to be Ne'ilah constant, or even better. Yeah? Not the half an hour that is Ne'ilah, it's going to be constant Ne'ilah. So how can you say that now is superior than that? Okay, to understand this, we're going to go somewhere else, and then eventually we'll come back. We're going to look at the last Mishnah in the whole Talmud, which is Masechet Uktzin. You haven't reached Masechet Uktzin, right? There you go. It doesn't have a Gemara, it's just Mishnah. So, and then we'll come back to Rebbe Maharash. Now, this Masechet...
Pirkei Avot was the only one that didn't have a Gemara. There's another one?
There's multiple ones.
Oh.
Yes. There's multiple ones. I don't know, 5, 10, 15.
Okay.
So Masechet Uktzin, just to give you context, it's not really important, but it talks about various things related to impurity, but specifically impurity of food, but not the food itself, but the yad. What do you mean the yad? Like if you have an apple and it's impure, what if you grab the apple from the little leaf, from the stem? If the apple is impure, is the stem impure or not? If you're carrying it by the stem, so it's a whole thing like that, where you're not touching the actual thing, you're touching something that is connected to it. Even explaining it doesn't sound very interesting. So it's a lot of that. That's what Uktzin talks about. But at the end of Uktzin, because it's the end of the whole Mishnah, speaks about something more general and less particular. This is what the last Mishnah says. Amar Rav Yeshua ben Levi, Rav Yeshua ben Levi says, Atid HaKadosh Baruch Hu le'anchil lechol tzadik v'tzadik 310 olamot. In the future, the Holy One, blessed be He, will bequeath to each and every righteous person 310 worlds. 310 worlds. Shene'emar, as it says in Mishlei, lehanchil ohava yesh ve'otzrotehem amaleh. What does it say? To bequeath substance or yesh to my loved ones, and I shall fill their treasuries. Now the word yesh, right? Shin, Yud Shin, is 310. So this is a source that says, lehanchil ohava, I will give to my loved ones yesh, meaning I will give to my loved ones 310. Okay, this is what they use as a source for the fact. I know you don't understand what it means 310 worlds. We're going to try to understand. First we read the Mishnah. 310 worlds. Now, we're going to focus on this, but I want to finish the Mishnah, because this is not the end. The end of the Mishnah is the next phrase. Amar Rav Shimon Mechalafta. Rav Shimon Mechalafta says, Lo matzah Kadosh Baruch Hu kli machasik beracha leYisrael elash ashalom. The Holy One, blessed be He, have found no vessel that can sufficiently hold the blessing for Israel except for peace. Peace is the blessing for everything else. Sorry, peace is the vessel for every other blessing. Shenemar, as it says in Tehillim, Hashem uslamo yiten, Hashem yavarech et amo b'shalom. As it says in Tehillim, Hashem will give strength to His nation, Hashem will bless His nation with peace. That is the end of Mishnayos. We're not going to focus on this last part, but the previous, the weird part about the 310 worlds. Yeah. Okay. So there are various explanations based on the revealed part of Torah on what does this mean. Somehow Hashem in Olam HaBa, where we're going to have pleasure, is going to give us 310 worlds, it's going to give each tzaddik 310 worlds. There is various explanations. Maybe you'll be satisfied, maybe you won't. But these are the explanations that I brought. One is that the pleasure in Olam HaBa will be 310 times the pleasure in this world. That's the formula.
Where did the formula come from?
From this pasuk, 310. What does it mean, 310 worlds? It says that the pleasure...
Why that number?
Because that's what the pasuk says. Yud Shin. I told you might not be satisfied. It's okay.
How do you quantify the pleasure in this world to multiply?
You need a pleasurometer. Okay, that's what the Rambam says. The Toldos Noch says 310. What does this mean? There are 310 levels of pleasure, one above the other, which will be, the tzaddik will be able to feel, experiment in Olam HaBa. Maybe that's a little better, or maybe not, I don't know. The Torah's Chaim, what does it say? It says there are 613 mitzvot. If you add, this is a very common addition, if you add the 7 rabbinic mitzvot, like Chanukah, washing the hands, Eruvin, there's 7 rabbinic mitzvot, which I have it here. Hallel, saying brachos, natilas yadayim, Eruvin, so making an Eruv, lighting the Shabbos candles, Purim and Chanukah. Those are considered the 7 rabbinic mitzvot, to the point that a lot of times we can add them to 613 and we get to 620. Yes? Which, by the way, 620 is Gematria Keter. Keter, the crown. And so, and says we should receive a world, whatever that means. Let's just call it world. We'll receive a world as a payment or as a reward for each mitzvah. But because nobody is alone, every masculine soul has its mate, its feminine soul, and so the masculine side receives half, 310, and the feminine receives the other half, 310.
620.
Now you'll be able to sleep? No, but it's
No, but
more. It's more
got
explanation.
it.
We're eventually going to get to 770, I think, somehow.
Not today. Maybe tomorrow. We'll see. And then one more. Kometz Mincha says, again, there are 620 mitzvot, as we just explained. And then each world that we're going to receive has both Shamayim va'aretz, has the sky or the heaven and the earth. And so 310 of those mitzvot create the earth, 310 creates the worlds, and 310 creates the heavens. I know you're not satisfied, and that is fine. You'll have to live with that. I'm not satisfied either, but it's context. Interesting also, just as a side note, that the word Mishnayos, which is Mishnahs in plural, you can separate it. You can take a shin and a yud out of it, which is 310, and then it says manot, portions, which again forms the idea of 310 portions. So the word Mishnayos again has that. The importance of this number will not be probably discovered today. There's this big thing coming to tzaddikim in Olam HaBa, 310 worlds, 310 levels of pleasure, whatever, which just makes the point even harder. How can you compare this world, which is 300 times less pleasurable, or has 300 times less levels, or whatever we say, with Olam HaBa? Even if we don't understand exactly what the 310 means, it does feel like it makes the question even harder to answer. Yes? At least that makes sense. Hashem. And I went backwards, so I have to go forwards. What time is it?
636.
Okay. And so the Rebbe Maharash mentions this, and he says that if we go back to the Mishnah we introduced with Pirkei Avot, it says, "Kol yesh lahem chelek l'olam haba, shenemar ve'amech kulam tzadikim." Your whole people are tzadikim. So he says we're all tzadikim. Hence, we will all receive 310 worlds. This applies to all of us. So if you wanted to get out and says, you know what, we don't need to explain this 310 because that's just for tzaddikim. We're talking about regular people. Says no, even you are going to get 300 because we're all tzaddikim. So you can't get out of the question or that part of the question with that. I'm going to skip this part. There's another thing with gematrias, but it's hard to understand and it doesn't add. Okay. Then the Rebbe Maharash explains. He goes to the number 620, which he said is the gematria Keter, which represents all the mitzvot, including the 7 rabbinic mitzvahs. It says, in this world, we have access. In Olam HaTechiyah, in Olam HaBa, we have access to what? 310 worlds. That's what we said. And we started splitting up. Is it 310 here, the heavens and the earth, or the masculine, feminine, whatever. It says, you know what's going on? In Olam HaTechiyah, in the Olam HaBa, in the time of the resurrection, we're going to have access to 310, which is the external part of Keter. If you are a learned man in Chassidut and in Sfirot, when we talk about Keter, the highest Sefirah, we always end up talking about the fact that it has an external part and an internal part. Because Keter is the interface between the infinite and creation. And when you're trying to be an interface, you need to be able to communicate on both sides. When you want to be a translator, you need to know both languages. And so Keter has an external part, which is more worldly, and an internal part, which is more godly. Yes? The external part is called Arich Anpin, and the internal part is called Atik Yoimin. It's not important, but it's for you to hear terms that you probably have heard before. So it says, when we get to Olam HaTechiyah, we're going to have these 310 levels of pressure. But you know what that is? The external part of Keter. But how much do we have access here in this world? 310? 620 mitzvahs, right? So you could already argue that this world is bigger, better, because here we have access to the whole Keter. Yes, it's an access where we're blind to what we're doing, where we don't feel, where we don't understand what's going on, but we're accessing the 620, the full breadth and width and length of Keter, not just half of it.
I thought we're not required to do mitzvot in Olam HaBa, so what difference does it make?
We won't be required, because you can't require to give somebody else a commandment if there is no one else. We'll still do them, but it will be a different experience. And so here we have a numerical answer, esoteric numerical answer of why Olam HaBa, Olam HaZeh is bigger than Olam HaBa. But this is not a very exciting answer, is it? It was fun to go through the numbers. It's not a very exciting answer. There is a very exciting answer, but we don't have enough time to talk about it today. It's exciting, it's understandable, it's logical, and it will cause us problems because it will make us appreciate even more being here and make it a bit harder to want Mashiach to come, because then we're going to end up here. And that's lower than where we're now. But for that, we'll have to wait till next week. After we fast, we'll be ready.